You would think that weapons in games would be useful. Why else would the developers spend time coding them into their games? Aren't these tested for balance? Well, for some of these weapons, they're either deliberately garbage or accidentally trash, but every weapon on this list is most definitely not something you want to add to your arsenal. Hey guys, ArcadeCloud here, and today we're counting down our top 10 useless weapons in video games. If you're new to our channel, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, you know. Make sure to comment down below and let us know what we missed on this list and what some of your least favorite weapons are. And hey, if you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up and share it with some friends. That's also free. First on our list today is the BB gun from the Fallout series. Doing about as much damage as a small rodent bite, these guns can take a few clips of ammo to kill even the weakest baddies. Ammo is often scarce, and the risk-reward for trying to play through any extended portion of the game with one of these weighs awfully heavy on the side of risk. Whenever I use these glorified Nerf guns, I half expect the enemies to taunt me with cries of, "Am I getting pecked to death by birds?" Really, you'd probably be better off with a straw and some spitballs. As soon as you get your hands on a real gun, we suggest throwing this weapon where it belongs. In the trash. Heading along to number 9, we have the dreaded Dagger from Castlevania. Let's say you've just found a good weapon, like the perfectly arcing axe, or the actually useful time stopwatch you can use to pass hard-to-avoid enemies like the infamous Medusa heads. You think everything is all going according to plan, and then you accidentally whip the wrong candle, and this game ruiner falls on you faster than you can say, "Already?" As if it's not bad enough to have a weapon that's about as effective as your standard melee attack, it's even worse to have it come out of nowhere and make you start praying that you can find something else again. For a game already this notoriously challenging, having these not-so-fun surprises fall on you out of nowhere really does feel like the game is stabbing you in the back. At number 8 today, we have a strange entry, as nobody thought the game hailed as having one of the most overpowered arsenals would ever have a weapon this unreliable and weak. Yep, TK's Wave, a gun from the critically acclaimed cel-shaded wasteland romp Borderlands, is about as useful as a squirt gun. Get it? Because waves, water. Anyway, the strange wave pattern is hard to adjust to, and even if you get the aim down, the gun does next to nothing in the damage department. But before you make that phone call to HR about this gun's passive aggression, make sure to remember it's given to you as a gift for completing a mission early in the game. Something that would seem like an upgrade is actually a fairly gigantic step back. Using this gun for any period of time after realizing how garbage it is like opting to remove the headphone jack from your smartphone. How is that progression? Way to reward the player for their hard work, Gearbox. I'm sure everyone appreciated it. Moving on to number 7, we have quite possibly one of the most conditionally useful weapons on our list. The Zeus from Counter-Strike Global Offensive. In a game about shooting your opponents with full-on bullets, there exists, for some reason, a taser. While it does kill in one hit if you're breathing down your opponent's neck, if you're any further away than an arm's length, this weapon does absolutely jack. Oh, and it's single use too. Once it's gone, it's gone. So make that shot count, and try to close the distance on that terrorist with an actual weapon. This makes the Zeus less useful than the knife, a free weapon that you can keep with you for every round. To add insult to electrical-induced coma, the weapon costs as much as a flashbang, a much more useful item, and doesn't have any kill reward. So even if you do manage to get a kill against all odds with this thing, you still don't earn any extra money to use in the next round for your efforts. This weapon is popular in the CSGO competitive scene to humiliate the opposing team and to reduce morale, effectively making it a weapon used to show off. For these reasons and more, it gets number 7 on our list. Funnily enough, our number 6 spot goes to an infamous weapon from a Nintendo 64 classic. So I'm just gonna say it's number 64 for laughs. Goldeneye was a landmark first-person shooter, but not every shooter out there is without its duds. The Klobb. A weapon based on the Scorpion VZ61, it's one of the most infamously horrible weapons in any video game. There's even a Facebook page dedicated to the gun called, and I quote, "The Klobb is garbage in N64's Goldeneye," and we couldn't agree more. Boasting over 982 likes, this Facebook page says it all. While the Klobb isn't technically the worst weapon in the game, it sure felt like it. With its awful bullet spray pattern, loud firing that would alert all guards and ruin stealth missions, and lackluster damage, the Klobb sounds about as appealing as its name. Klobb. Ugh. It was actually named after someone on the development team, Ken Lobb. Poor guy. If I were trying to name a weapon after somebody to honor them, I would make sure it wasn't about to become what's possibly the most hated weapon in all of gaming history. At least it has a cool reload sound though. We are halfway through our list now, and at number 5 we have yet another weapon from CSGO, this time the dual Berettas. Nothing looks cooler to a new player than shooting 2 guns at once, akimbo style. Unfortunately, these new players who fall for the trap of the dualies won't just be met with the awfully high learning curve that plagues Counter-Strike, but now they're at even more of a disadvantage. To be fair, balance updates have made them a little less disgusting, but they still cost way too much for how inaccurate and pitiful they are. If you're looking for some classic FPS drama, play an entire game solely with the dualies, and you'll hear the clipped mics coming from miles away. Nobody likes the dualies. The only thing they're good at is ruining your odds of survival and setting off the toxic short-fused players on your team. If you ever accidentally buy these guys, you'd better invest in some earplugs as well, or mute everybody on the server quick. Okay, so this next one technically isn't a weapon, but it comes in a box that most weapons in the game come in, and it's most certainly useless. I'm talking, of course, about the coin in Mario Kart 8 or Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Imagine the scenario. You just took first place using your last means of offense or defense to make the previous first place holder lose momentum. But what's that in the distance? Why, it's a perfectly timed blue shell. You see an item box in the distance and think, this is my chance. You focus all of your trademarked gamer energy into this gamble. Please, get me a super horn, or at least something I can use to catch back up once I'm done getting dethroned in the most annoying way possible. The block spins and spins. You have every finger on each hand crossed. And what comes out of this fabled item block? Not a mushroom, not a green shell. One measly coin. Reggie himself might as well have just popped out of your TV and slapped you dead in the face for how useful that was. And the worst part? Coins are the most common in first place, so your chances of holding that position for any longer than a minute are about none. We hate you, poorly timed first place coin. We hate you. Coming in at the beginning of our top 3 here is the biggest joke in the JRPG community, the Excalipoor from the Final Fantasy series. The weapon being literally a pun about how awful it is, the Excalipoor does exactly 1 damage, no matter your stats or how many buffs you put on the weapon. It's always just going to give you that solitary 1 damage. It must be one of the biggest inside jokes at Square, because they've put it in most Final Fantasy games since Final Fantasy IV, and while its abilities differ slightly from game to game, every single one of them is pretty much unusable. What's worse is that it's often pitched with such descriptions as legendary holy sword, or though it has betrayed many masters, this blade is still coveted for its power. Yeah, right. I can hear the laughs coming from Square headquarters as I'm reading these. Very funny, guys. And at number 2, we've got a bit of an obvious one. For those of us unlucky enough to have to suffer through the horror that is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for the original Nintendo Entertainment System, we all know that one of the most useless weapons in any video game is Dr. Jekyll's cane. It does no damage, stops your forward momentum, a very important thing for avoiding obstacles in the game, effectively rendering you defenseless for a second or two, and it's your only attack. What, your only attack does nothing? Nothing at all? Well, no. You can kill bees with it if you're lucky enough to time your attack perfectly and get very lucky. Some of these weapons on this list can serve at least some purpose, but this one has literally none. Why does it exist? Who coded the cane? And why? With how this game is shrouded in mystery, I suppose we'll never know. And finally, our number 1 pick for the most useless weapon in all of video gaming is the Giant's Knife from The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. A sword that looks so big and so sharp and that costs 200 rupees is surely to be a great weapon, right? Sure, for 3 or 4 hits, and then it breaks. For those people out there memeing about weapon impermanence in Breath of the Wild, hey, I got news for you. At least the bigger swords in that game don't last as short as this complete waste of money. It's a huge slap in the face, a breach of trust between the player and the game world, and it sent people into rage fits all across the globe. Who knew code was so powerful? And there you have it, our list of the top 10 most useless weapons in video games. Do you agree? Did we miss something? Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe for more great videos from ArcadeCloud every other day. Take care and game on.